and you pick the throttle up and drive out the corner. Now we'll come to the exit there slightly later. I just want to go back here to 12:36 on the timeline, which was the previous lap, and we can talk about your, shall we say, a bit of a moment there. So you're popping up over the rise, with a flat stick, and you basically shut off just as you pass the 2. And let's look what happens. Now this isn't because of where you put the brakes on. Yeah, a little bit of heart in the mouth moment there. And that was largely due to how you applied the brake. Instead, because you can imagine if the bike's accelerating really hard, the majority of the weight's on the back wheel, you suddenly basically grab a handful of brakes, shut the throttle, grab a handful of brakes. The weight has to transition to the front, and if it's done with a sort of a grab, it essentially shoots the weight to the front, makes the back wheel light, which can pick the back wheel up, and then you start pivoting about, and then you're in a dilemma then of just not only trying to brake late and control your entry for the corner, but just keep the thing under control. And I've wore the t-shirt for you. Don't grab, roll and squeeze, which is exactly what you didn't do here. Now that, I think what you may have been trying here is pushing your braking. You're really having a go at that braking. And I think if you'd have just rolled and squeezed and kept the thing under control, I think you'd have made it no problem. I think on 600s and that sort of thing, 3 is way too early to start slowing down. 2 is the 2 mark is more accurate, of a really good point, but it's got to be right, because you're starting to get to the point where there's not a lot of room for error there. So you have to, first application has to be right and get into the brake, and then at the tip in you should still theoretically be braking at that point, but trailing it off in towards the apex. So that the shape of how you do things there, the piece of the jigsaw has to be exactly right, otherwise it ain't going to fit very well. And your shape that you drew there by that grabbing of the brake and it upsetting it, of course, all you had to think about then is get the thing bloody stopped. The entry into the corner completely went out the window. So good recovery, but it was all set up by, I think, a little bit of a grab as opposed to the rolling and squeezing. You did the rolling and squeeze the next lap. Let's get back to that. You did a good job of rolling and squeezing here, but it was all kind of really safe. You plateaued going over the rise, you kind of rolled off a little bit, I think, and then you rolled and squeezed, which meant the entry into the corner was super controlled. And I think we can condense that down a little bit.